Ghastly Garlic Episode 20. Legend of the Devil's Bridge, the Demon Revenge. The Legend of the Devil's Bridge, as per the pages of the Friedrich Weiss diary. In the heart of the Swiss Alps, amidst the towering peaks and deep gorges, lies a place where history and legend intertwine. The Schöllenen Gorge, carved by the relentless force of the Reuss River, has long been a formidable obstacle for travelers. Before the age of modern engineering, crossing this treacherous terrain was a near impossible feat. It is here that the legend of the Devil's Bridge was born, a tale of deceit, revenge, and the dark bargains struck between mortals and otherworldly beings. Centuries ago, the people of the Ur Valley were cut off from the rest of Switzerland by the raging waters of the Reuss River. The river's violent currents and the steep, jagged cliffs of the Schöllenen Gorge made it impassable. The villagers, dependent on trade and travel, faced increasing isolation and hardship. Desperation grew, and it was in this climate of despair that the legend begins. Jakob, a humble herdsman from a nearby village, had lost many of his sheep to the perilous waters of the Reuss. Each loss was a blow to his livelihood and his spirit. One fateful night, as he stood on the edge of the gorge, watching the turbulent waters below, he cried out in anguish. "If only there were a bridge," he lamented, "I would give anything to see it built." Unbeknownst to Jakob, his plea had been heard by a sinister force. The devil, always eager to ensnare desperate souls, appeared before him in a swirl of dark mist. With eyes gleaming like burning coals and a voice as cold as the mountain winds, the devil made his offer. He would build a bridge across the gorge, a feat no mortal could achieve. In return, the first soul to cross the bridge would belong to him. Blinded by his desperation and the promise of salvation, Jakob agreed to the devil's terms. The pact was sealed, and the devil vanished, leaving Jakob with a sense of foreboding. The very next morning, the villagers awoke to find a magnificent stone bridge spanning the Schöllenen Gorge. Its arches were flawless, its structure seemingly defying the natural forces of the raging river below. The people rejoiced, hailing the miraculous bridge as a gift from the heavens. Only Jakob knew the truth of its infernal origin. As the villagers gathered to celebrate, Jakob remembered his dreadful bargain. He realized that the devil would soon come to claim his due. In a moment of cunning, Jakob devised a plan to outwit the malevolent being. He led a goat to the bridge, urging the animal to cross first. The innocent creature trotted across the span, unwittingly becoming the sacrificial soul. When the devil appeared to collect his prize, he was furious to find that he had been tricked. Enraged by the deception, he vowed vengeance upon Jakob and the villagers. The devil grabbed a massive boulder, intending to smash the bridge to pieces. However, as he lifted the rock, an old woman, wise to the ways of evil, quickly drew a cross upon it. The sacred symbol rendered the boulder immovable, and the devil, thwarted again, was forced to abandon his plan. The rock, known as the Devil's Stone, remains in the gorge to this day, a testament to the villagers' cleverness and the devil's thwarted wrath. In 1977, the rock was moved 127 meters to make way for the new Gotthard Road tunnel, a feat that cost 300,000 Swiss francs. Despite its relocation, the legend endures, a reminder of the dark pact that nearly doomed the village. The true horror of the legend, however, lies beneath the surface. The devil, it is said, did not leave empty-handed. He took with him the souls of those who had perished in the river, trapping them in a nearby cave. The villagers, unaware of this sinister turn, continued to use the bridge, oblivious to the malevolent presence lurking nearby. The cave, hidden deep within the mountains, became a place of darkness and despair. The trapped souls, especially those of children, cried out for release. The devil, now a demon driven by revenge, sought to consume and entrap more souls, drawing them into his lair. His anger towards Jakob and the villagers festered, transforming him into a being of pure malice. Over the years, many attempted to uncover the truth behind the legend. Scholars and adventurers alike were drawn to the Schöllenen Gorge, hoping to separate fact from fiction. Some claimed that the story of the herdsman and the devil was merely a fabrication, a tale spun to explain the bridge's miraculous construction. Others believed that the legend held a kernel of truth, that dark forces had indeed played a role in its creation. Amidst the conflicting accounts, one thing remained certain: the Devil's Bridge stood as a symbol of the delicate balance between light and darkness, truth and deception. The villagers' triumph over the devil was celebrated, but the true cost of their victory remained hidden in the shadows. As centuries passed, the legend of the Devil's Bridge continued to captivate the imaginations of those who heard it. The bridge, now a vital passage through the mountains, stood as a testament to human ingenuity and resilience. Yet, the demon's thirst for revenge remained unquenched. It is said that on stormy nights, when the wind howls through the gorge and the river roars with fury, the demon's anguished cries can still be heard. Those brave enough to venture near the cave speak of ghostly apparitions and a malevolent presence that chills the soul. The legend of the Devil's Bridge endures, a cautionary tale of the perils of making deals with dark forces and the enduring power of human cunning and resilience. In the end, the story of the Devil's Bridge is not just a tale of a miraculous structure, but a reminder of the eternal struggle between good and evil, light and shadow. It is a legend that continues to echo through the ages, its mysteries waiting to be uncovered by those who dare to seek the truth. Prologue. In the quiet, picturesque town nestled within the Swiss Alps, the serenity of the landscape belied the dark secrets it held. The legends of old spoke of bridges built by devils, haunted caves, and vengeful spirits. For the uninitiated, these were mere stories, meant to entertain or warn. But for Izzy and her team, these tales had become their reality. Fresh from their victory over the dragon of Mount Pilatus, they found themselves facing a new, even more terrifying challenge. The diary of Friedrich Weiss had revealed another dark chapter, one that could only be resolved by venturing into the depths of the demon's lair. Chapter 1. A Restless Recovery. Hans was finally awake. After weeks in a coma, his eyes had opened to a world he no longer recognized. The once vibrant young man was now pale and gaunt, his body weak from prolonged immobility. Despite his fragile state, there was a fire in his eyes, a determination to live, to fight. Hans lay in his bed, surrounded by family and friends, their faces a mix of relief and concern. "You need to rest," his mother said gently, brushing a lock of hair from his forehead. Hans nodded, but his thoughts were elsewhere. He knew that while his body rested, his mind was racing with questions. What had happened to him? How had he survived? And most importantly, what had his cousin and his friends gone through to save him? Meanwhile, Izzy and the rest of the team gathered in the living room, planning their next move. The diary of Friedrich Weiss had revealed another location, Schöllenen Gorge, home to the infamous Devil's Bridge. The legend spoke of a pact with the devil, a bridge built in exchange for a soul, and a demon that still lingered, thirsting for revenge. "We need to go back to the cave," Izzy said, her voice resolute. "There's something there, something that connects to the legend of the Devil's Bridge." Mark, who had been silently listening, finally spoke. "My shield is barely holding. The demon is growing stronger. We don't have much time." Chapter 2. The journey begins. The team set off for the Schöllenen Gorge, leaving Hans in the care of his family. The air was crisp, and the mountains loomed overhead, their peaks shrouded in mist. As they approached the gorge, the atmosphere grew heavy with anticipation. The Devil's Bridge stood before them, an ancient structure that had weathered centuries of storms and human traffic. The Reuss River roared beneath, a constant reminder of the treacherous crossing that once challenged early travelers. The bridge's dark history was palpable, and the team felt a shiver of unease as they crossed it. Once on the other side, they made their way to the cave. Mark's demon shield flickered weakly, barely containing the malevolent force within. The air inside was thick with darkness, and the walls seemed to pulse with a life of their own. Izzy took out the diary, which began to pulse with a bright light. She opened it to find a new ritual inscribed on the pages. "We have to do this now," she said, her voice echoing in the cavernous space. Chapter 3. The Ritual. Izzy quickly took out the dragon stone and began to read the ritual. Her voice was steady, but her heart pounded in her chest. The words seemed to resonate with the very fabric of the cave, each syllable causing the walls to tremble. Just as she was nearing the end, the shield broke. The demon, a dark, shadowy figure with glowing red eyes, lunged towards Izzy. She acted on instinct, throwing the dragon stone at it. The stone exploded in a burst of light, and the team was engulfed in a blinding flash. When the light faded, they found themselves transported back in time. They watched as the legend of the Devil's Bridge unfolded before their eyes. The herdsman, desperate to cross the Reuss, made a pact with the devil. The bridge was built, but the herdsman tricked the devil by sending a goat across first. Enraged, the devil tried to destroy the bridge with a massive rock, but an old woman drew a cross on it, rendering it immovable. The scene shifted to the cave, where the demon, thwarted and humiliated, took refuge. It vowed revenge on humanity, especially the children, whose pure souls it desired most. Chapter 4. The battle begins. Back in the present, the team braced themselves as the demon advanced. Izzy continued the ritual, her voice rising above the demon's roars. The dragon's stone glowed brightly, its light growing stronger with each word. The demon shrieked in agony as the ritual reached its climax. The cave shook violently, and the ground beneath them cracked open. The demon was pulled into the fissure, its screams echoing through the chamber. But just as the team thought they had won, the demon re-emerged, more powerful than before. Its form had shifted, now more monstrous and terrifying. It was a battle of wills, of light against dark, and the team fought with everything they had. The demon's strength was immense, but the combined power of the dragon's stone and the ritual was greater. The demon unleashed its fury upon them, and the cave erupted into chaos. Evelyn Eve Hawkins, the team's strategist, was thrown against the cave wall, blood trickling from her forehead. Logan Logic Whitman, the skeptic, used his quick thinking to create makeshift weapons from the debris, fighting valiantly to protect his friends. Mark's shield flickered back to life for brief moments, each time protecting them from fatal blows. But it was clear that it wouldn't last. Izzy, despite the chaos, kept reciting the ritual, her voice unwavering. Chapter 5. The Demon's Origin. As the battle raged, Izzy felt the dragon's stone grow warmer in her hand. Suddenly, it emitted a blinding flash, and the team was once again transported to the past. They found themselves witnessing the true origin of the demon. Long before the construction of the tunnel, the only passage through the region was a treacherous ford across the Reuss. A desperate Swiss herdsman made a pact with the devil to build a bridge in exchange for a soul. The devil built the bridge, but the herdsman tricked him by sending a goat across first. Enraged, the devil sought to destroy the bridge with a massive rock, but an old woman marked the rock with a cross, rendering it immovable. The demon, humiliated and defeated, retreated to the cave, swearing vengeance. Over the centuries, it lured countless souls, especially children, to their doom, feeding off their despair and sorrow. The vision ended, and the team found themselves back in the present, the demon looming over them. The knowledge of its origin gave them a newfound resolve. They knew what they were up against, and they were determined to end its reign of terror. Chapter 6. A Desperate Gamble. The battle continued with renewed intensity. The demon's attacks grew more ferocious, and the team struggled to hold their ground. Izzy, clutching the dragon's stone, felt a surge of energy coursing through her. She knew she had to act fast. Before the demon could strike again, Izzy threw the dragon's stone at it. The stone exploded with a brilliant light, enveloping the demon and transporting the team back in time once more. This time, the vision was different. They saw the demon's true form, a monstrous entity twisted by rage and hatred. It had been tricked and humiliated, and its sole purpose was now to exact revenge. The vision revealed the demon's vulnerabilities, its moments of weakness, and the key to its defeat. As the vision faded, the team found themselves back in the cave. Izzy began the ritual anew, her voice stronger and more confident. The dragon's stone glowed brightly, its power magnified by the knowledge they had gained. The demon roared in fury, its form shifting and writhing, but the team stood firm, united in their resolve. Mark's shield flickered back to life, protecting them from the demon's onslaught. Even Logan fought valiantly, using every ounce of their strength to keep the demon at bay. Chapter 7. The Final Confrontation. The demon's fury reached its peak, and the cave trembled as if on the brink of collapse. Izzy, her voice unwavering, recited the final incantation. The dragon's stone shone with an otherworldly light, its power surging through the cave. The demon, sensing its impending defeat, lashed out with desperate fury. It lunged at Izzy, its claws outstretched. But in a moment of pure instinct, Izzy held up the dragon's stone, and a blinding light engulfed the cave. The demon's roar echoed through the chamber, as its form disintegrated, banished from the world of the living. The cave fell silent, the air heavy with the aftermath of the battle. Private Reginald and the trapped children's souls were freed, their spirits rising as orbs of light, ascending to the heavens. The team watched in awe and sadness, knowing they had achieved a great victory, but also aware of the lingering darkness. Chapter 8. The Aftermath. Emerging from the cave, the team was greeted by the golden glow of the setting sun. They had won a hard-fought victory, but the journey ahead was uncertain. They would need all their strength and courage for the trials to come. Hans, now fully recovered, listened intently as the team recounted their journey, the battles they had fought, and the mysteries they had uncovered. His eyes widened with each revelation, the weight of their experiences settling heavily on him. "You did all this for me?" Hans asked, his voice filled with awe and gratitude. Izzy nodded, a faint smile on her lips. "We would do it all again, Hans. You're part of our family." The room fell silent as the gravity of their words sank in. They had faced unimaginable horrors and had come out stronger, but the scars, both visible and hidden, would take time to heal. Chapter 9, The New Mission. With Hans on the road to recovery, the team knew they couldn't rest for long. The diary of Friedrich Weiss, now a constant source of intrigue and danger, had revealed yet another dark chapter. The Devil's Bridge and the demon they had defeated were only the beginning. "The demon is gone, but not destroyed," Logan said, his voice filled with resolve. "We need to find a way to end this once and for all." Izzy agreed. "There's more to the story, more that we need to uncover. We need to understand the full history, the origin of these demons, and how they are connected." The team decided to return to the Schöllenen Gorge, the site of the Devil's Bridge. They believed that the answers they sought lay hidden within the ancient stone and the legends that surrounded it. Chapter 10, Unraveling the Mystery. As they journeyed back to the Schöllenen Gorge, the team felt a mix of anticipation and dread. The legend of the Devil's Bridge, with its dark pact and treacherous history, loomed over them. They knew they were walking into another battle, one that could be their last. The gorge was as imposing as ever, the bridge spanning the chasm like a thread of fate. The Reuss River roared beneath, its waters a constant reminder of the perilous journey ahead. The team stood at the entrance of the cave, their resolve unwavering. Izzy took out the diary, its pages glowing with an ethereal light. "There's something here," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Something we need to find." As they delved deeper into the cave, the air grew colder, and the darkness seemed to close in around them. The walls were lined with ancient runes, their meanings lost to time. But Izzy could feel the power emanating from them, a connection to the past that held the key to their future. Chapter 11, The Hidden Chamber. After hours of searching, they discovered a hidden chamber, its entrance concealed by a heavy stone door. Mark and Logan worked together to push the door open, revealing a room filled with ancient artifacts and inscriptions. In the center of the chamber was a pedestal, upon which lay an ancient tome. Izzy approached it cautiously, her heart pounding in her chest. She opened the tome, and as she did, a vision engulfed her. She saw the bridge being built, the pact with the devil, and the herdsman's trickery. But she also saw something else, an ancient order of guardians, tasked with protecting the world from the demonic forces that sought to destroy it. These guardians had fought and defeated many demons, but some had escaped, hiding in the shadows, waiting for their chance to return. Chapter 12, The Guardian's Legacy. The vision ended, and Izzy found herself back in the chamber. She knew now that they were part of something much larger, a battle that had been waged for centuries. The guardians of old had left behind clues, tools, and knowledge that could help them in their fight. "We are the new guardians," Izzy said, her voice filled with determination. "We need to finish what they started." The team spent hours studying the artifacts and inscriptions, piecing together the history of the guardians and the demons they had fought. They found references to other demonic entities, each with its own unique power and weakness. Chapter 13, The Demon's Return. As they prepared to leave the chamber, the ground shook violently. The air grew thick with malice, and the temperature dropped. The demon, though weakened, had returned, its fury more intense than ever. The battle was fierce and chaotic. The demon's attacks were relentless, its power fueled by centuries of hatred and vengeance. But the team fought with everything they had, using the knowledge and artifacts they had discovered to weaken it. Izzy, clutching the dragon stone, recited the ritual once more. The stone glowed with a blinding light, and the demon screamed in agony. But just as they thought they had won, the demon unleashed a final, desperate attack. Chapter 14, Sacrifice and Redemption. In a moment of pure selflessness, Mark threw himself in front of Izzy, taking the brunt of the demon's attack. He fell to the ground, his body battered and broken. The team rallied around him, their grief and rage fueling their final assault on the demon. With a last, mighty effort, they banished the demon from the mortal realm. The cave fell silent, the air clear of its malevolent presence. But the victory came at a great cost. Mark lay motionless, his life slipping away. As they cradled Mark in their arms, Izzy felt a surge of energy from the dragon's stone. She placed it on Mark's chest, reciting a prayer for healing. The stone glowed softly, and Mark's breathing steadied, his wounds beginning to close. Chapter 15, The Aftermath. The team emerged from the cave, their spirits weary but unbroken. They had defeated the demon, freed the trapped souls, and uncovered a legacy that spanned centuries. But their journey was far from over. There were other demons, other battles to be fought. As they stood at the entrance of the cave, watching the sunrise over the mountains, they knew they were not alone. The spirits of the guardians watched over them, guiding them on their path. Epilogue. Back in the town, Hans was fully awake. Though his body was still weak, his spirit was strong. Will Hans join the team, uncovering the secrets of the past and protecting the world from the darkness that lurked in the shadows? The diary of Friedrich Weiss, now a trusted companion, still held many secrets. Izzy and the team knew that their journey was just beginning. They had become the new guardians, and their story was far from over. As the sun set behind the mountains, casting long shadows over the town, the team prepared for their next adventure. They knew the road ahead would be filled with danger and uncertainty, but they were ready. For they were the guardians, and their duty was to protect the world from the darkness that threatened to consume it. The legacy of the Devil's Bridge, the Dragon of Mount Pilatus, and the guardians of old would live on through them. And as long as they stood together, they knew they could face any challenge that came their way. The end.
Thanks for tuning in to our podcast. If you enjoyed our exploration of ghosts, mythical creatures, and urban legends, please share it with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe for more thrilling episodes. Until next time, my beloved listeners.